Hello. Um, so this video is kind of going to be about flowers and about One Piece and about mythical creatures. Um, so a couple of weeks ago, well, by the time this video is actually being recorded, it was probably about a month and a half ago. My mom took my nieces and nephew and I to Omaha. I live in Nebraska. Omaha is very close. We went to Omaha. They have a place in Omaha that is called Lauritzen Gardens. It's this building that has like a giant greenhouse on it, and they have huge outdoor area and like outdoor exhibits and such that they rotate flowers in and out of, all year round. The greenhouses are open all year round, and they have a big indoor area as well. You'll get to see some of that in this video. We went, and because they were doing a exhibit that is called Fantastical Folklore. It is a If you live in Nebraska, or if you live near Nebraska, I don't know if this video is going to be going up during the same time frame that it is on, but if you are available to it, it was running from January 29th through May 9th, 2021. I don't know if it'll still be up by the time this video goes up. I think that it might be going still be up by the time this goes. If it is up, it probably won't be going for too much longer, unfortunately. But this is, I guess, for people who, if you watch this video and you're interested in it, I'm going to have lots of pictures from it in this video. I'm going to talk a lot about it, and I'm going to be tying it into One Piece. And I'm going to be tying it into One Piece because in One Piece we have seen a lot of different variations of mythical creatures, not just like the zoans. The ancient zones or the mythical zones that can kind of be tied into mythical creatures, obviously. There are also giants that run around in One Piece, of course. There are mermaids in One Piece. There are, the Tontata that are like the little fairies, or the dwarves that run around in One Piece. So this video is kind of a way of me just kind of being able to talk about this exhibit because I loved the exhibit. I've been to multiple exhibits at this garden before. I've been going there. I've gone there quite a few times over the course of my life. And it's just it's a beautiful place. The greenhouses are gorgeous. The outside area is gorgeous. And I guess it's a way for me to gush about it and talk about One Piece. And because like while we're going through it, I'm like, that's in One Piece. That's in One Piece. That's in One Piece. I had originally thought about doing like it where I tie it into different anime, all different types of, a lot of different anime, but I'm like, oh no, that'll be too long of a video. That'll be way too long of a video. I could end up tying it into like Pokemon at some point, just because of the fact of, various Pokemon are of course based on mythical creatures. Or at least have some tie-in to various mythical creatures. But we're just going to stick with One Piece for this. This does not mean I'm going to go over every mythical creature in One Piece. This means I'm going to go over the mythical creatures that I can tie into what was in the exhibit. So, it's like, as much as I love, Monette is a harpy, this isn't going to be talking about Monette because there's no harpies in this exhibit. Same thing with like the the centaurs and the satyrs that we have for, Brownbeard's crew that work for Caesar Clown. They're unfortunately not really going to be talked about in this because there was no centaurs or no satyrs. But you'll see what there is as I go through this. So we have a giant sunflower. We have a dragon. There is a dragon in this. Given the fact that I used, Marco's image in the thumbnail, there is a phoenix that I will be talking about. There is a kitsune in this exhibit, so hence why Vulpix is here. And we'll be talking about kitsune, and then of course there's just a ton of different flowers because, this is about, flowers at an exhibit. And there's a dragon there, so we have a dragon. So I will talk about Kaido. Which, seems rather prevalent given, the anime, right, or the manga right now. The manga and the anime at this point in time. So, starting off, a slight explanation of the place. Giant set of 3 greenhouses, kind of, they built into each other. that are attached to the main visitor center. You go into the first greenhouse, and there's kind of a waterfall pond set up in there, and there is a giant spider web. I don't like spiders, but this kind of stuff I'm okay with. There's a giant spider web, and then off to the side is a giant spider that is made out of a tire for its face, which I'm like, okay, yeah, yep. And it is called Anansi. It is based off of Anansi, the spider god from Africa that is kind of like a trickster god. You can make deals with it, and he usually tries to get it where he has the better end of the deal. There's varying legends about Anansi in, some, I don't know specifically what African tribe he's derived from, as in where that story first came from, but there's quite a few different variations of that concept. I think at one point he turns people into leopards. There's a bunch of other variations of, what he does to people. They come to him for a deal. So the two main references that I had for giant spiders in One Piece is, the first one is Vice Admiral Onigumo, who is just one of the various vice admirals that is part of the Marines. We see him a few times. I know that he is at Marineford. He uses swords. He has a spider-type devil fruit. We don't know specifically what type of spider, but it's a spider-type devil fruit, considering that he has his two regular arms, and then he has a bunch of extra arms that look like they're growing out of his hair. And he appears to be in a hybrid form quite often, but his hybrid form seems to be a little bit different than the other spider that we're going to talk about in a moment. But we have him there. The other spider devil fruit that we are, of course, aware of is Black Maria's devil fruit. Black Maria is a member of the Tobi Roppo that work under Kaido. She has the Kumo Kumo no Mi model Rosamagelia gravigoli. I ain't going to show you a picture of the actual spider because I don't like spiders, but I will show you Black Maria. So it's the spider fruit. It's the ancient zone model. That is like a very, very old variation of like what evolved into tarantulas, which I don't like spiders, so you're not going to see that. We've seen Black Maria in the way that she fights. She, tends to lure people into traps. She did this with Sanji already, and she used him as bait to try to get to Nico Robin, and now Nico Robin and Brooke are fighting her at the moment. Or at least at the time that I'm recording this video, that they're in the middle of a fight, and hopefully Robin is being awesome because Robin is Robin. We've seen Black Maria's hybrid form, or at least we assume it's her hybrid form because it's not a full form because she's not entirely a spider, but she seems to, unlike other, Zoans, she seems to only transform from the waist down, and the spider has a face. And she, has, 8 legs and everything, and has like the body of a spider, but it still has a face, but then her upper body is still human. Although I would assume that at some point, if she ever did go into her full spider form, it would look like a spider. Kind of the other giant spider that we end up dealing with in One Piece is on Thriller Bark. There's that giant spider monkey type thing that weaves all the webs and everything that they use to trap the ships, but it's not really that big of a deal. Brooke beats it fairly easily after Robin and Frankie kind of deal with it a little bit. Moving on, as you make your way through the greenhouse, you come across you move into the next greenhouse, and you come across a tree, and underneath the tree is a little fox. But it's not a regular fox, it is a kitsune. I'm aware that Vulpix is technically not a kitsune. It turns into Ninetales, but I don't have a stuffed Ninetales. And I don't have a stuffed kitsune either. That would be fun. But we have the kitsune that we are seeing. Kitsune, of course, are derived from Asia, mostly Japan, but I think there's some references to it in Chinese culture as well. They're foxes that a fox becomes a kitsune, I think, when it lives for 100 years, and then it becomes a kitsune. Or is it 1,000 years? It's either 100 years or 1,000 years, and then it becomes a kitsune. But they're shape-shifting creatures. They are spiritual creatures. There are two variations of Kitsune, both of which have been introduced during the Wano arc. The first one is Katarina Devon, who is a member of, Blackbeard's crew. She has the devil fruit, the Ino Ino no Mi model Kyubi no Kitsune, or dog fruit model nine-tailed fox. So she has the mythical zone version. I would assume that there might be another mythical zone version of like some other type of a dog type of a creature, like the Hound of the Baskervilles or something like that, or like the Cerberus type devil fruit, but that hasn't been introduced yet. Although there's that Blackbeard Cerberus theory that I don't know one way or the other on that. I'm just going to wait and see what Oda does with that. But moving on, her devil fruit, of course, allows her to transform into a Kitsune. We see her demonstrate her power by she transforms into Absalon to try to trick Moria, and then she changes back from Absalon into her regular form. We don't see the whole form of what the Kitsune looks like. We just see her do the flip, and then she lands, and then she's back in her regular form. I would assume at some point in the series, he's going to show us kind of what her hybrid form would look like, which I would assume would just be like her regular human form with like 9 tails behind her, and maybe she has like claws and dog ears, fox ears. I would assume that would kind of be what her hybrid form would look like, and then her, full-blown form would just be like a 9 tails type of thing, because 9 tails is, of course, a Kitsune, or it's based off of a Kitsune. And, so she can shapeshift. The other Kitsune that we are kind of introduced to, or the Kitsune type creature that we are introduced to, is Onimaru, who is a Kitsune that is in Wano. It is it used to serve under Shimosuke Ushimaru. I'm hoping I'm saying all these names right. But it served under that, and he is a Onimaru is a Omagitune. Pretty sure I mispronounced that, but that's kind of what he is. His introduction in the story is we actually meet him as Gyukimaru on the Ohagi Bridge. So he's this, kind of a spirit that is up in the, I think it was the, I don't remember exactly what the region was, the snowy region in Wano. You want specifics for the maps of Wano, go watch Tekking 101, and his geography is everything. But there's that icy region up in Wano, that winter region, and that's where Gyukimaru is, near the grave area there, and he keeps taking weapons from the different travelers that try to go to the graves. We find out a flashback with Kawamatsu that he had gone to this region to try to gather weapons for them to use against Wano, 20 years after, when, the people that went to the future, when Kinemon and such went to the future, when they come back, they have weapons to use against Kaido. And he ends up getting attacked by Onimaru, and he and Onimaru end up bonding, and Onimaru ends up helping him. And then when Kawamatsu is captured, Onimaru takes up the disguise of Gyukimaru to, keep stealing more and more weapons. He steals Shusui from Zoro to take it back to the region and put it back on the graves where where Ryuma's grave is, so that way it can be returned to him. And we find out that Onimaru has been defending this area and has been caring for these weapons and cleaning them up and getting them all back into working order and everything, so that way they can use it in their rebellion against Kaido. And we see Onimaru leave after Kawamatsu and Zoro, and I think it's Hiyori and Toko are there as well, and they get there, and they Kawamatsu sees all of these weapons and everything, and he realizes that it must have been Onimaru all these years that has been gathering these weapons and getting them back into working order, and shape-shifting in and out of being Gyukimaru in order to do this. So you gotta give Onimaru credit there. He earned that. And then he kind of goes off. I wouldn't mind if Onimaru pops back up again, or if he pops back up as like Gyukimaru to help fight in the Battle of Onigashima, but I don't really know if that's going to happen. He may have gone off to, maybe he's deciding to like help protect Hiyori at the moment. maybe. Since we don't know, Hiyori's still off kind of in hiding until the battle's finished, so maybe he decided to go and like kind of unbeknownst to her, he's like guarding the area. The next thing that you see when you come through the greenhouse is you see, well, there's like other like little fairy houses around it, but I'm not going to talk about the fairies yet. The fairies are kind of near the end of the video. But you come around and you see this dragon. Yeah, there's a dragon that's like on the window, and it's kind of cool looking. And after it's like, it actually takes you a couple of seconds to realize, oh, this is a dragon. Okay, yeah, no, that's a big dragon. But you see this dragon, and it actually took several pictures for us to even try to get the right picture of the dragon without it looking fuzzy. So yeah, that was fun. You see the dragon, and of course, in one piece that leads us into several different dragons. We of course have the celestial dragons, horrible bastards that they are. Barring a few exceptions, but most of them are just horrible bastards. But then we also have the dragon number 13 on Punk Hazard. And, that's, giant dragon that's there on the fire side of the island that, Luffy, Zoro, Robin, and Usopp come across. And then, Zoro just straight up decapitates the dang thing very quickly, and then they eat it by roasting it. The next dragon that we're introduced to is the smaller green dragon that Caesar uses mostly for transport. This dragon is killed by Brook and Kinemon later on when they're in the facility. And then, and then of course our two other dragons are the two dragon shifters that we have, the two, zone users. We have Momonosuke, who of course is, Kazuki Momonosuke, who is the heir to the throne of Wano, is technically the rightful shogun of Wano. And he has the ability to turn into a little pink kind of, an eel, as they keep referring to him as, Chinese type of dragon. And this is because he ate an artificial Zoan type devil fruit that Vegapunk developed, and he said it was a failure, but we're not 100% sure about that. And we're not 100% sure if, as Momonosuke gets older, if his dragon is going to get bigger, or if it's just going to be, it's always going to be like that size. Which, in my opinion, would be kind of a jip. Because, like, if it gets bigger as he gets older, then that would make sense. Just because like it's an artificial one, it might have a different structure for how it's going to change. And Momonosuke has been doing better at getting able to control it. It used to be anytime that he would get scared or shocked or something or surprised, he would instantly turn into it. Now it's getting more to the point where it's like, okay, he can control it more and he can kind of shift a little bit at will, but still if he receives like a very, very big shock or something like that, he will still transform. But we'll see what happens with that. The other obvious dragon is, of course, Kaido, who is not a dragon, he is a fish, but he's still a dragon. So we have Kaido, has the Ua Ua no Mi model Seiryu, or the fish fruit model Azure Dragon, which is one of the mythical variants of the Ua Ua no Mi. We don't know if there's any other Ua Ua no Mi. There might be some others. There might be some other various dragon type devil fruits that may not fall under the, fish model. They might be a different type of a devil fruit that falls under a different type of another type of a model of a devil fruit, like a lizard type model or something like that. We don't know. But we of course have Kaido. He has his Boro Breath, his the Wind Scythe, all those other types of, freaking strong attacks that he has, of course. And we just found out that it's a fish devil fruit, thanks to Big Mom. And we know that Kaido can turn into his full dragon form. We know that he can turn into his hybrid form. I guess we'll wait and see what else he can do with that, or what other types of, however much stronger he is. But right now, Luffy's kind of battling him at the moment, so we'll see what happens with that. The next thing that you see as you're coming through is you see this giant pillar, and on the top of this pillar is what appears to be a person, but it is actually a Naga. And Nagas, I believe, come from, I think they're from Indian mythology, as in like Indians, Indians, from that area. and from like Southeast Asia and such like that. I think that's kind of where that comes from, but that concept of, half human, half snake. And the main obvious ones that we get for this are, of course, the Kuja on Amazon Lily, and the two very obvious ones for this are Boa Marigold, who has the Hebi no Mi model King Cobra, so the snake fruit model King Cobra, which of course allows her to change into a giant king cobra, and then she can also set her hair on fire. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure how that kind of plays into this, but I would assume that it might have something to do with her hockey, because I think she tends to like infuse her hair with her hockey and then use it to strike her opponents. And then the other kind of Naga type creature is, of course, Boa Sandersonia, who is, of course, has the Hebi no Mi model Anaconda, which is, of course, in real life is just this giant freaking snake and everything that, can cause a lot of problems if you're small enough for it to eat. Sandersonia, of course, has the ability to transform into this snake, and she, mostly the two of them tend to fight in their hybrid forms, which they're already quite, large in and of themselves. With it, they're quite tall. Therefore, their snake forms are even bigger. I don't think we've seen them go full snake form, but that might happen. I would assume it just means they change into, Marigold turns into a giant orange king cobra, and Sandersonia turns into a giant, greenish blue anaconda. Since that kind of seems to be the way that your shifting changes, that, your color is kind of the same as whatever your normal color is, I guess, your hair color. But we get them changing, and Sandersonia, of course, uses her hair to bite at Luffy and everything. And their main battle that we see them do is against Luffy, of course, in the Coliseum type thing arena that they have on Amazon Lily when Luffy is trying to prove himself. Also, most of the other Kuja all have snakes that they use, so that's kind of a reference to the Naga in that sense. Then we have, as you're coming around from the Naga, which, first of all, this Naga was very hard to get a picture of, because when we were there, the sun was literally shining through the top of the greenhouse right behind the Naga, and that was not fun to try to get a picture of. But between me and my niece and my other niece, we were able to at least get some decent pictures to use. So that was fun. But then, coming down the path, then you see a phoenix made out of beautiful flowers. And of course, in One Piece, we of course have Marco the Phoenix, hence why he's on the thumbnail. And he has the Tori no Mi model Phoenix, which is the bird fruit model Phoenix, which is the mythical variant. I'm assuming there's probably other mythical variants of, the bird fruit, like a griffin might fall under that as well. Or, if you're a Harry Potter fan, a hippogriff might fall under that as well, in regards to that. But I'm not 100% sure if Oda would bring those into consideration for other mythicals that would fall under the Tori variety. Marco is, of course, he's currently helping in Wano right now. He was fighting King and Queen, and he helped Chopper and everything with, trying to slow the Isoni virus, which of course gave Chopper the time that he needed to make the antidote. So go Chopper, go Marco. We'll see what happens with Marco. And he's holding his own. He was holding his own and doing a lot at that same time. So good job there, Marco. He was the captain of the first division of the Whitebeard Pirates, so he already is pretty dang strong in that regard. And of course, his Phoenix ability allows him to be able to use his fires to not only heal himself but heal others. We see him, he's been shot through multiple times, and he just heals from that. Since he's not a Logia, I would assume that even him getting hit with a weapon that's covered in hockey may not necessarily result in him actually taking permanent damage. I would assume that if he, of course, if he has the sea stone cuffs on or something like that and he takes damage, that it would definitely cause problems for him, but we're not 100% sure how that works. But we have, that is, that devil fruit is there. And of course, phoenixes are in a lot of different mythologies. That concept of, the bird that, as it dies, then it is reborn from its own ashes. We get that in Harry Potter, of course, with Fox. We get that in, lots of other mythologies have that type of a rebirth type of a thing, because like the sun is reborn, every day, and the phoenixes are reborn out of their own ashes. I would assume that Marco is going to want to get some other form of revenge on Blackbeard. The payback war unfortunately didn't go super well, but we'll see what ends up happening with that. If Marco maybe like helps the Straw Hats the rest of the way at Wano, and then he then heads back to Sphinx Island, which I'm not. Unfortunately, I'm not going to really talk about Sphinx in this either, because there weren't any Sphinx in this exhibit. Darn these people! They need to read more One Piece and give me more things that I can talk about. Moving on. The next thing that you see is there's just, there's trees in this greenhouse, of course. There's lots of different flowers everywhere. The reason I have orchids over here is because I took so many pictures of orchids later in this exhibit, because I love orchids, and I took so many freaking pictures of them at one point. But you come around and there's this, this big tree, and around the bottom of this tree is this yellow snake. It's a blown glass snake, so it's beautifully done. A lot of these different things, some of them are just carvings that they have, like the kitsune was a carving. The dragon looked like it was like woven out of sticks. The phoenix was, made out of flowers. The blown glass snake is beautiful and it's yellow. And I'm probably going to mispronounce this. Fognano. Probably mispronounced that. It said that it was something from Madagascar, but when I tried finding it, I could not find anything about it. But, snakes, One Piece, blah, 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 blah. Kuja as well, they have snakes. I couldn't really find anything about it, unfortunately. The next thing that you see as you come through the exhibit is, I'm gonna mispronounce this. It's Lotle. It's Papapalote. Probably mispronounced that. The thing that they had online was a striking skeleton warrior goddess who ruled over the paradise world of Tomana-chan, the paradise of victims of infant mortality, and the place identified as where humans were created. So it's from a South American, Central and South American culture. That type of area is where that came from. So it's a skeleton goddess. We don't have any female skeletons that run around One Piece, but we have Brook. So Brook. Yeah, we have Brook here. He's, I guess, the closest thing that we have to that. He is a warrior. But this was just a very interesting looking sculpture that this person had made. I couldn't really find too much else in regards to it. It's a goddess from this different culture, kind of victims of infant mortality, because unfortunately back in ancient times and such, there was a lot of infant mortality because just disease and everything that would happen, and unfortunately babies were the very very vulnerable part of the population. And of course, as I said, they identified, this place where she reigns over is part of, where humans were created in that mythology. I don't have as big of a bearing on Central and South American mythology as I would like. That might be something that I end up trying to expand my knowledge on. But we have Brook there for that. Then the next thing that we have is technically, I had to kind of stretch this a little bit just to be able to use this, but these were adorable. They have dandelions, and I'm not talking about like just flowers. People actually made statues of lions, and then they put like dandelions in the statue. which I just thought was so cute, and I just wanted to put them in there because they were in this because it was just so freaking cute. There were two of them. They were right across from each other. You know, one of them has like a woven into their mane and everything. And I just thought they were so cute. And I guess basically like the closest thing that I can say here for that is Peckhams. You know, the main Peckhams, because he's like the closest thing, kind of to a degree, that we use. It's a lion in this. I mean, like there's like a lion that's in the like the Cordia Coliseum, but there's not really too much other lions that pop up in One Piece that are promptly knocked out of the ring or eaten. I think. But, you know, so we have Peckhams there. He's, you know, he's got like the yellow mane and everything. So Peckhams. But these things were just so cute. I had to put them in here. They're so cute. And then one thing that you see when you're wandering around this greenhouse, it's in the first main greenhouse. Or was it in the second one? No, I think this was in the second greenhouse. But you see this over by the Naga. There was this big tail coming out of the water. This is what it looked like. And initially, I thought that it belonged to the Naga. And I'm like, okay, well, I mean, it didn't look like the pillar, but it was going into the water. You know, the tail was going into the water, and then the Naga was coming out of the water. So I kind of thought maybe that had a connection to the tail. It was just a big tail that had like silver on one side, and then, you know, plants on the other. And then as you work your way through, you know, you're following this path, and then over the path arches, you know, a silver body. And I'm like, okay, Nagas in mythology are not nearly this long, so it can't be part of the Naga. But, you know, so this big archway that you go under, that's still part of this tail of this thing. And you work your way through again. You know, you walk under it and you work your way down the path, and you're going past other exhibits at this point in time. And then you see this giant snake head there. Like you come around the corner and giant snake head. And you know, sign sea serpent. I'm like, okay, yeah, this thing was huge. This thing, like its eyeball was probably not too much different in size than this thing. This thing was probably about the size of this thing's eyeball. And like it was just this giant freaking snake sculpture that, you know, the eyeball is like blown glass, and it was gorgeous. And like, you know, the snake head was there, and then it like just goes, you know, wraps its way down, and then, you know, it goes into the water, and then it goes, you know, then you have the archway, and then you have the tail on the other end. And I'm just like, okay, yeah, I did not see that coming. Just beautiful, gigantic snake. And, you know, in One Piece, I would say some of the closest things that we have to, you know, the sea serpents are the sea kings, or the Neptunians, that are, of course, there. That, you know, that are in the Calm Belt, and that are either, you know, that are like all over the One Piece world, because, you know, there's the Lord of the Coast that Luffy punches out. There's, you know, what was it, I don't remember what the giant one that Akainu froze. Or not Akainu, that's wrong. There was the giant one that Aokiji froze. And, you know, and then there's like all these other ones that they deal with. There's all the gigantic ones that they interacted with in the Calm Belt. And then there's, you know, all the ones that were around Fishman Island and everything that, you know, helped with saving the Noah, and that, you know, Shirahoshi can control these things. And, you know, so there's, you know, these giant things that are basically the closest thing that we get to, you know, sea serpents. And, our history of sea serpents is, you know, there were giant snakes and everything that would be, you know, living in the ocean, and, you know, they would cause problems. They would sink ships and eat sailors and everything. The other thing that I kind of had in regards to like the sea serpents that I put more as like a sea serpent as opposed to a snake was the Yuta that are on Amazon Lily, that are from Amazon Lily. That are those giant serpents that pull their ship, the perfume Yuta. So they're kind of they're the Amazon Lily, you know, the Amazon, the Kuja Pirates' way of, you know, transport. they can swim through the calm belt and not be messed with the fact that there's no weather going on. And I would assume that these giant poisonous snakes keep away the sea kings. So we have them, and going from there, kind of a transition of talked about the sea kings, we talked about the Neptunians. Let's talk about mermaids, because I mentioned Shirahoshi. So then we have, they didn't act, and then you move into the second area of the greenhouse. And I don't remember if they actually had mermaids there. I don't remember there actually being like a statue of a mermaid, but there was like, they talked a little bit, but I think there was like a plaque that talked about mermaids. But they have like, this water area with like all these like little fake dragonflies that they made, and these beautiful, pots and everything that were all around it. So we have mermaids that, of course, get talked about a little bit. And, of course, in One Piece, we have, of course, technically the first mermaid that we meet is Granny Kokoro on Water 7. But she's kind of retconned as the first mermaid that they meet, because Sanji is like, nope, the first mermaid that we met is Kami, and I will stick with that until the day I die. Because he doesn't like to think about Granny Kokoro as a mermaid. And of course, so we're introduced to Granny Kokoro, and she kind of explains some stuff about mermaids and fishmen. And then, of course, we are introduced to Kami a little bit later on, her and Papagu. And then we have, then, of course, later on, we are, of course, after all the time skip and trying to save Ace and everything, we are, of course, introduced to Fishman Island in and of itself. And we are introduced to all these different mermaids that work at the Mermaid Cafe. We are introduced to Madame Charlie. Sanji gets his epic nosebleed and almost dies because mermaids. And then we have, Luffy meets Shirahoshi. We're introduced to the Neptune royal family. Luffy meets Shirahoshi. They help Shirahoshi. We find out that she has the ability, of course, to control the Sea Kings. So there's a lot of that goes into play with that. So there's, mermaids seem to be rather prevalent in this. There's, mermaids later on. There's mermaids in, Whole Cake Island arc, because, we have Praline is there. And, so the Fishman Pirates or the Sun Pirates are still part of that. Then, of course, with Jinbei on the crew, they still have that connection to Fishman Island. And we'll see what other types of, whatever other types of mermen and, merfolk and mermaids that we come across. I would assume that Shirahoshi, since she is an ancient weapon, is going to become kind of crucial later on in either them, getting to Laugh Tale, or in regards to maybe, taking down the Celestial Dragons. But, you move through there. And they have a few other, sculptures and everything that kind of, work their way through. And then the other thing that they had was, they had these crows that were all hanging from the ceiling in kind of a spiral. And it starts off as this beautiful rainbow crow. And then by the bottom, it is, of course, a black crow. This is a reference to the story of why crows are black. It's called the Rainbow Crow Story, and it is the concept that crows were originally rainbow colored, very vibrant, beautiful birds, and there had been this crow that had to take fire. I don't remember if it was specifically fire from the sun or if it was just a different type of magical fire, but it was their job to transport this piece of fire, this torch, transport it to somewhere else. I don't remember exactly where, but transport it. And unfortunately, in the process, they ended up getting burned black. And that's why crows are black now. But when you see a crow, if you see it in the right light, its feathers have like a rainbow sheen. And so this crow did this, and so the sculptures, it winds down. It's got, crow here and a crow here and a crow here. And like, it's like you see the crow slowly becoming black, and then the crow at the bottom is black. And then they have like these other, silhouettes of crows there as well, showing off that. And of course, the main reference that we have for crows in One Piece at the moment is Karasu. Mostly just because of the fact of he seems to turn into a flock of crows or ravens to a degree, something along those lines. We really don't know exactly what type of devil fruit he has, whether if it's a Logia or whether if it's a Zoan of some kind. Um, I guess we'll just have to wait and find out until Oda is ready to reveal that. But you work your way through, and the crows are kind of near the end of the last greenhouse, and then you make your way back into the main building. You can go and wander around the grounds and everything, but the rest of the exhibit isn't really on the grounds. But you make your way back into the main building, and then in the main building they have a another part of an exhibit, or it's still the same exhibit, of course. But you work your way into this bit. It's kind of a domed-ish area. It's just big indoor exhibit area, and you go in there, and you're there's well, you go through this kind of cave thing that's just part of the exhibit. That and then on the other side you come out, and this is kind of you're entering the realm of the fairies, but also the kind of realm of giants and such. And what happens is, you come through on the other side, and there is a sign that looks like it's kind of being held by a dog that says, be still or something. The giant is sleeping, or be silent or quiet or something like that. The giant is sleeping. And you walk down this little short little path. There's not too much of a path in here. It's mostly fairly open, but you walk down it, and then they had this, giant. I think it looked like it was made out of like cardboard or something. Giant head, and then had a beard, and you can walk across, walk over the beard. And of course, in One Piece, we have dealt with giants quite a bit. We met giants way back on, Little Garden, way back at the beginning of the Grand Line. We had Dorian Broggy there, and we have the giants of Elbath is where we first learn about that. And then later on, we're introduced to, the two giants that are still waiting, that were working for the government on Enies Lobby, that they come back, and they had originally on Dorian Broggy's crew, of course, and they go back to go and find their captains after Usopp explains, oh no, they're still alive. They've been fighting on that frickin' island for 100 years, and they probably don't remember why. So we have them, and then of course we're introduced to this other giant, Lillian Stomach, in just a little filler arc that they had. The Z's ambition arc that is a tie into film Zed, and she's a giant that ate the mini fruit, or the shrink fruit, or whatever, so she can go from a regular sized giant all the way down to like she can fit inside of like a bottle. And she uses that for transport, and she fights with a fork. Apparently she can change the size of the fork too, because she gets really, really big and the fork gets big, or she gets really, really small and the fork is small. So she can apparently affect that. But she interacts with the Straw Hats. She can also shrink herself down to human size as well. So she uses that at various points in time. And of course, the next giant that we are introduced to is, or at least I think it's the next giant that we're introduced to, is Hyrudine, of course, that we meet in Dressrosa. And, he becomes, he's part of the Coliseum matches and everything, and then he becomes part of, Luffy's Grand Fleet, the Straw Hat Grand Fleet, with him and his new giant warrior pirates. And of course, on that, he has Gerd. I would have to say, I think my favorite giant, I will have to say my favorite giant that we've met so far is actually Lillian Stomach, but I do like Gerd quite a bit, and I do like Hyrudine quite a bit. Dorian Broggy are nice too, but we get a little bit more of like Hyrudine and Gerd's backstory when we get Big Mom's backstory, because Gerd and Hyrudine were there when Big Mom was a child, and so they were there when she caused all those problems on Elbath. So we'll see what happens with them. I really hope we do go to Elbath. I would like that to be like the next place that we have to go, but we're not 100% sure if that's going to be the case yet after Wano's finished up. It depends, I guess, how Wano ends. I would assume, however Wano ends, I would assume that they're probably going to be, Hyrudine may have gone, and he formed the giant warrior pirates, and they're part of Luffy's Grand Fleet now. That maybe he's going to try to get the Giants of Elbath to welcome Luffy and his friends. We're introduced to other giants that work for the Marines that are part of the giant squadron and such. Um, we're of course introduced to Saul, of course, in Robin's backstory, and there's a few other giants that we're introduced to throughout the course of the series. But the main ones tend to be the pirate ones that we've interacted with. So we have them, and then of course in this area. Near the giant's head, there's this little pond thing. They have like koi fish here at the gardens. They have koi fish, and in the koi fish pond, there is like a giant turtle that they made. And of course, the giant turtle, I just do the reference to, Peccoms, because he has the Kami Kami no Mi, which is like the turtle fruit. So he can turn into a turtle. We don't see him do it too much, but he does it a tiny little bit. When they're leaving Zoe, he turns into it. I don't remember if he ever turns into it during their time in Whole Cake Island, but he does turn into it. That was his devil fruit. We don't get too much besides that, but we have a turtle there. Turtles are fairly prevalent in different types of mythology. There's I think there's mythology, I don't remember exactly which one, but there's like where like the whole world is actually on the back of a giant turtle. Which is very interesting of a concept. It's like, okay, the whole world is balanced on the back of this giant turtle. Yeah. Okay, I'm okay with this. Seems a little precarious, but we just let's stop Antarctica from melting and maybe we'll be okay. But we have the turtle there. Turtles are also come up in other mythologies. They're usually there's the anthology of the tortoise and the hare, of course, has been around for a long time. As I mentioned, the giants. And then, of course, now I get to talk about fairies. I get to talk about fairies, dwarves, so the Tontatas. As you move through, after you walk by the turtle and the giant, there is this giant stack of windows and orchids. Hence why I said there was going to be I had took a lot of pictures of orchids. And there's just this giant stack of windows and orchids. And all the orchids all over the windows and everything. And as you walk around, you also see these little fairy houses. And also hanging from the ceiling above like the windows and the orchids is always like umbrellas. Don't know why that they had umbrellas there, but they did. But as you walk around, you see these little fairy houses. Now, there was a few little fairy houses back in the greenhouses, but most of the fairy stuff is in this area. And we have, a sign that talks about the fairies, and these are little houses, and you see all these different little houses that the different artists had made. And just all the different artworks in this, even a couple that I didn't show you because I couldn't think of a reason to show you them in regards to One Piece, are beautiful. The artist did so much work in this, and I give full credit to the artists that made all of these different things, and to Lauritzen Gardens for even putting this exhibit on. It was beautiful and beautifully done, and the artist clearly had a love for whatever type of mythology that they were trying to show. But so we have all the little fairy houses and everything, and of course in One Piece we have the Tontatas, who are referred to in Dressrosa, they're referred to as fairies. They're dwarves. They run around and they steal items from people, but it's fine. Zoro chases one, and they were in they can make plants grow even in harsh conditions. And at one point in their past they were enslaved by Doflamingo's ancestor, and then of course they're then later the King Riku line is very good with the Tontatas, and they're of course allies later, and they help with overthrowing Doflamingo. We're gonna overflow him with flowers. Oh God! Overthrowing Doflamingo and his the Don Quixote family out of Dressrosa. So we have Leo there. We have the Tontata princess. We have Mosheri. We have so many of the other different Tontatas that we interact with that help, and they're just adorable. And they're very strong little things because they have like hyped up, strength because, you look at an ant, and an ant can usually lift something that's, 10 times their weight or something, so many times their weight. And then of course now we have, the Tontata that are quite strong because they can like flip a regular human, which, that would be something where it's just like, okay, yeah, no, you're strong. Yeah. So we have that. And then kind of also in this area, they had kind of like a forest spirit area, which I guess, the forest spirits can kind of be tied in with the Logias a little bit. But up above the forest spirit area, they had clouds and a sun. And as soon as I saw that, I thought Zeus and Prometheus from, Big Mom's homies and everything. And I'm just like, yep. Yeah, giant cloud, giant sun. And at the moment, well, at the moment that I'm recording this, Zeus is currently trapped inside of a box. Thank you to Kid and Law. And I'm sitting there and I read that chapter, and I think it took me a couple of minutes. And I loved how they did that, how they trapped Zeus inside of the box, and at the end of that chapter, and then sent Big Mom falling over the side of Onigashima, which was just funny. But I just had this image in my head of because I'd watched Aladdin recently, and of course in Aladdin they have genie and his phenomenal cosmic power, living space, and I saw that they did that with Zeus, and I was like, in my head I'm like, Zeus, phenomenal cosmic power, living space instead of the box. So I made this. Yeah, I thought it was funny. I don't know if you'll think it was funny, but I thought it was funny. um, I just, Nami kept him inside of her wand for so long, but he seemed to like that. But he could, come out when he wanted to, and then, now, Prometheus kind of, I'm assuming, wants Big Mom to make a new friend for him because, Zeus kind of, he left already, and then now he's been trapped, so maybe he's not so useful. Um, but I guess we'll see what happens with Zeus. By a technicality, I would assume that if if Big Mom does make herself a new type of cloud homie that she can use along with Prometheus, and she like ditches Zeus, either she is going to like reabsorb Zeus into her at whatever point in time that he gets freed from that box. Or he's just gonna be so scared that he's just gonna go off and maybe like go and try to find Nami again. Be like, I'm sorry, Nami, please take me back. I'm sorry I ran away. Please take me back. I won't do it again. I just have Zeus show up and like plead with Nami to take him back because he doesn't want to get eaten again by Big Mom. Because he doesn't want to get reabsorbed into Big Mom. That would be fun, and then Nami can still, have Zeus as her, weapon, servant, slave, whatever she wants to refer to him as. So we have that. That was basically about where the exhibit ended. Was the big the forest area and everything. Lauritzen Gardens has different exhibits that have come and gone over the years. They've had so many other exhibits that I've seen at Christmas. They have, instead of this being like a giant pile of like windows and orchids, there's like a giant pile of poinsettias that just sits there, and it's gorgeous. And like they all these other things, different trees and different plants and everything. The greenhouses are open all year long. So if you live in Nebraska or near Nebraska, and if you live near Omaha, just Lauritzen Gardens is a great place to go. I just Lauritzen Gardens is awesome. Just go there. It's great. They do different exhibits all year round. The greenhouses are open, and you can go and walk around the grounds a little bit at times. Depending on stuff, depending on what the weather's like. And in spring and in summer, they have more outdoor exhibits that you can go and walk around the outdoor gardens that are just gorgeous. It's been a couple of years since I've done that, but I've done it in the past, and it's very nice. So they do a great job with that. So just all props to Lauritzen Gardens and the artist that did this. I guess this kind of ended up being an unintentional commercial for Lauritzen Gardens, but hey, if it gets them, if it gets them customers, then so be it. Because I like going there, and as long as it keeps getting business, they will continue to be open, which I enjoy because it's a fun place to go. That's what we got. We got lots of mythical creatures in regards to One Piece. There was obviously a couple that I didn't really end up talking about because they weren't particularly prevalent in. They weren't part of the exhibits that they had, so there wasn't really too much there for me to talk about for them. Since I at least wanted to keep it down to what was in the exhibits. At some point, I may end up talking about some of the other ones, like Monette or something, but we'll see what else comes along. So we have that. So that's what we got. I thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day. Bye.
Even in the depths of hell blooms a beautiful flower of friendship, leaving its petals as mementos bobbing back and forth on the waves. May it one day bloom once again the Okama way.